Accelerated by the pandemic, the healthcare industry is experiencing incredible digital growth and innovation. But not every healthcare organization has been keeping pace. In this special CXO edition of Insight TechTalk, we're going to get some insight on the solutions changing the healthcare industry as we know it, and how providers are being more prescriptive about the technology that will deliver better patient care. Welcome to Insight Tech Talk. I'm your host, Z Tinoco, and with us today we have Chris Goff, Worldwide GM of Intel Health and Life Sciences. Welcome to the pod, Chris.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, I have a question. What does a worldwide GM of Intel Health and Life Sciences do at Intel?
Well, Intel's a big technology company. We have a long history of innovation and developing new technology. We're not a healthcare company. We're a health and life sciences company. So the role of my team is really to understand what technology we have, what's coming, and some of the key business challenges that our health and life sciences organizations are facing, and how we can apply some of that technology to improve what they do on a daily basis in concert with our partner ecosystem and great partners like Insight. Healthcare organizations need to be ambitious about their IT goals because they are facing personnel and staffing issues and challenges like never before. IT technology, when deployed the right way, can help them address those challenges, become more efficient, and apply their scarce resources where they can have the greatest impact.
Fantastic. Well, we have a lot of topics to discuss today. So I want to start off with this first question for you, Chris, is healthcare is rich with opportunity for digital transformation and innovation. We see this both in customer and medical wearable technology, of course, also telehealth. What is Intel doing in this space?
Well, our focus is to help health and life sciences organizations use data and technology more effectively to become less reactive and more proactive and predictive. And certainly we saw the use of telehealth take off during the pandemic, especially during the earlier part of the pandemic. And one area where that might not be quite as obvious is on the inpatient side, inside the hospital. So really needing to protect both caregivers and patients from potentially catching COVID. How can you reduce the need to meet face-to-face or physically in the hospital environment? And so one place a lot of hospitals are investing or deploying technology is with virtual ICUs. So being able to view the telemetry across a population of patients in the ICU, in some cases control devices or at least read the devices remotely, and with one of our key partners in this space, Medical Informatics Corp, and their platform SickBay, even have predictive algorithms that can alert the staff when there might be a cardiac issue for one of their patients. They need to proactively sort of intervene to prevent something bad from happening. So telehealth across the spectrum, outside the hospital, inside the hospital, not only improving safety, but also efficiency.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of elements, and sometimes, being from the outside looking in, we only get a glimpse or maybe what we're exposed to, but it's amazing to see what is happening in all these different realms or areas in healthcare. Well, here's a question for you. I mean, what Intel innovations are you most proud of at this time?
Well, we've got a lot of tech innovations, but I think one thing I'd like to highlight is more of a program innovation. Like a number of companies, Intel being a large global technology company, we had a pandemic program we put in place in 2020, called our Pandemic Response Technology Initiative, or PRTI, where we used our technology to work with partners, work with users of our technology like hospital systems and pharmaceutical companies to try and accelerate some deployments that could help with the response or future hardening systems for perhaps future waves or future pandemics. We have since changed that program a bit, or the focus of it, to be aligned with our corporate social responsibility goals, which we call our RISE goals, which stands for responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and enabled by technology. So it's broader than just the pandemic. It's helping improve healthcare with technology, helping underserved communities, improving sustainability. So really a much broader initiative. But I love the fact that we took something that we put in place for that emergency situation that we faced in 2020, and now it's a ongoing program that we can use to help society in a number of ways with our technology and our partner ecosystem.
That's amazing. I mean, I find it fascinating when organizations, align with your values, right? In the projects and the technology that we work in, or that we develop. I think that's amazing. I mean, I know here at Insight, we're big when it comes to those things as well. Making sure that we're living and breathing our values in everything that we do. So it's good to hear that you're doing the same.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. And I know we mentioned already telehealth a few times, and 22 there was a huge explosion, or a huge demand for it, and really a
Mm.
lot of visibility. But I'm curious, what are the lesser known ambitious ways technology is being applied in advanced healthcare? If you can provide some examples, that'd be great.
Sure. So one area, it's hot buzzword, has been for a number of years now, AI, or artificial intelligence. What we found is that no healthcare organization is going to adopt or deploy AI just for the sake of having it. We've got AI now, so it's really all about the outcomes. How can you improve efficiency or patient care, or staffing levels, using some of these capabilities. And so, where we are working with the industry to have an impact is in a few areas. One is medical imaging. So either improving the workload that radiologists have today, making them more efficient, empowering them with new tools and technologies to help improve diagnosis, or stream or speed up diagnosis. Second is an area called natural language processing, where AI is really being used to understand what's being spoken, or to search through clinical text among the kind of unstructured doctors and nurses' notes. So one key area NLP is having impact is what's called the digital front door. So being able to make could be a call center more efficient, or help patients navigate to receive the right care, or be put in touch with the right provider by using technology to understand what they're asking, and point them in the right direction. And then last, I'd like to point out is what I think of as risk stratification. So looking across historical data across a number of different use cases, figuring out where certain adverse events may have happened, or outcomes that you want to avoid, and be able to predict when those are about to happen and intervene proactively to stop that. So one example there is, I know Insight had worked closely with a provider called Steward Healthcare. They were interested in reducing the length of stay for patients in their hospital. And so they deployed these kinds of capabilities: predictive analytics, predicting when a patient was at risk for a longer than expected hospital stay. They were able to predict with 98% accuracy the demand, or the census, patient census, a week into advance. So being able to optimize their staffing levels to accommodate that. So it's really a good example of using data, using technology to proactively prepare for something that's coming, instead of an alarm goes off and responding after the fact.
Yeah, it's all about being proactive. Exactly what
Yeah.
I heard you say, right? Is if we can find a way to proactively help patients, and more importantly, I mean, just thinking about, you're going through something, you're in a hospital, you're not in your bed, you're not with family. If we can find a way to be proactive, and minimize that stay time, of course, taking their health, they're ready to go. That is a win-win, right? Not only does a patient now get to sleep in their own bed, spend time with loved ones, but and hopefully a smaller hospital bill, as we know.
Right.
But the other stuff, it's a hospital wins too, right? Now they can service and help other patients that are needing that extra bed, to make sure, as we know, during that, the past 2 years, that's been a big topic. That there was a bed issue, right? So
Yeah, it's really, the industry was already facing a shortage of caregivers before the pandemic hit, and
yeah,
now, like we've seen across all segments of society, all segments of the economy, staffing shortages are a huge issue. So anything we can do, using tools, and we're a big tech company, so using technology, using tools to help, target those scarce resources where they're needed most, where they can have the greatest impact, or help streamline a workload or workflow, or make a clinical caregiver more efficient. We have to, we have to take advantage of those opportunities, right?
yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, I think just make our lives easier and help everybody involved, right? It's a win across. But tell us about. I know that there's something around accelerating clinical trials. Is there something that you've done around that?
Yeah, we've got a, one challenge is getting access to real world data across a number of use cases in healthcare and drug discovery and clinical trials. The data you need is locked away in silos at maybe a particular provider or inside a electronic health record system. I mean, this is data we have to protect. Look at, to meet with HIPAA regulations or GDPR regulations. It's largely patient data, subject to those regs. So you have to protect the privacy, but you still want to be able to operate in that data. So we have a, technology, sort of baked into our processors, uh, called trusted execution technology, that basically lets you, it protects data while it's used in memory. So it can protect the privacy of information. You can kind of move algorithms into, into where the data resides, run it there, and neither the application or algorithm nor the data can access that memory partition. So really, I think it's going to be a game changer. You mentioned clinical trials. We're working with a couple partners there on some blockchain based approaches, where, the data across a large population of patients is analyzed. When a clinical trial comes, you can search search across those patients to find the best potential matches for those clinical trials. Empower patients to receive requests and consent and get financially reimbursed for their participation, and really streamline that very complex and time intensive process of getting recruitment, in a timely manner. So that's one example of a use case that's improved by having easier access to real world data. But there's a host of them across the healthcare provider and payer and biotech landscape.
Yeah. No, and I think, I mean, I don't know. I just don't see that ever separating, right? When we're talking healthcare, we're talking security, we're talking keeping things, like you said, you mentioned the word silos, just protection overall. And I think that's just so important, for our patients and our healthcare providers to have that peace of mind.
Yeah.
Um, Now, we've been talking about it a few times already. It's come up, right? Telehealth obviously is a popular, buzzword, or it's a popular technology being used, and we know it's here to stay. So how are you seeing telehealth solutions being applied moving forward?
Well, I think one, I view it kind of like, what we saw many years ago with electronic health records, when with meaningful use, the industry shifted from paper to electronic. And then you got to certain level where maybe over 80% of the healthcare providers were on electronic health record years ago. And then the next sort of wave of innovation was around analytics and operating. Now that you have that electronic data, you can use it in innovative ways to predict what's going to happen, to more effectively report across your patient population. So with telehealth, now you're taking what was an analog interaction between, say, a doctor and a patient, where the patient would come into the office, they would have a conversation, you take their vitals. Now that that's happening digitally, the voice is recorded, digital, the video is digital. So there's research programs, around the world, trying to look at what innovative things you can do with that digital data, perhaps get help with finding new conditions they might have by analyzing the video stream or analyzing inflections in their voice that could be indicative of some kind of medical condition. So I think it's today it's really just all about efficiency. But I think if you combine capabilities like artificial intelligence and machine learning with these new digital streams of data, you can really have big benefits and new use cases in the future. So I think that's where it's going, is sort of fusing together the AI, the machine learning with telehealth to really improve patient care and make things more effective for the providers.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but when you hear this kind of things, right, around technology, it just gets you goosebumps about like, wow, you're looking at voice inflection. You can
Yeah.
catch these little things that can predict or can give us some kind of indication that somebody needs certain kind of health or care. That's amazing. So
One other thing I'll touch on is patient observation. So um, there was, before the pandemic came, there were some key use cases in the hospital that were enabled with the use of video and video analysis. So one example would be fall prevention. So using video for patients at risk for a fall to see if they're getting out of bed and intervene and give them the help they need to prevent a fall from happening. When the pandemic came, you wanted to minimize unnecessary face-to-face interaction between patients and caregivers. So we found that these systems put in for fall prevention were kind of repurposed. Hey, let's expand what we're doing here. Let's get a video camera in all the patient rooms. Banner Health is a healthcare organization we work with to do this, where they attached kind of a camera and a small form factor PC to all their TVs in their patient rooms. And now they were able to improve the safety, but they also found really big efficiency gains by being able to connect that patient with now a inpatient telehealth solution with staff that might be elsewhere in the hospital or maybe even in a different facility. So a lot of these innovations sort of came in for the need to improve safety and are now sticking around, not only because of those safety benefits, but also some of the efficiency benefits of not having to be in the room, touching the devices, touching the patient every single time you need to interact with them.
yeah, again, amazing that we can even repurpose something and go, this can be used
Yeah.
for other things as well. I mean, we've been talking a lot about, technology and being able to, prevent and help patients, but we also, we're living in an environment where remote work is definitely now, the norm, and more, and the ability to attract talent and getting that flexibility for future talent that you're looking to obtain. I want to change this question now to more, hey, what has technology done in Intel specifically, or what do you know about the remote work opportunities in healthcare that you've seen?
Yeah. The I sort of, being in a big tech company by Intel, like Intel, sometimes we take it for granted. We have our own laptop. We can easily connect to a VPN. We can connect anywhere. We have an internet connection in the world. A lot of society and different kinds of organizations don't have that kind of thing by default. So we saw a lot of healthcare providers trying to enable their workers that didn't have to be in the hospital. Well, can they connect from home? In some cases, this started with IT, needing to reboot or manage a device. They can use something we have called active management technology to remotely manage that device. We worked with Intermountain on a project where they swapped all their operating systems from Windows to Linux for all their inpatient telehealth devices without needing to be on site or in the room. Do that all remotely. If you look more at sort of on the caregiver side, one area that is of big interest to hospitals is around radiology. So can you enable a radiologist to access the images and render a diagnosis from their own home, where they don't have to come in to the hospital every time? So that's one area we're seeing hospitals invest and the solution provider ecosystem to make that use case or that segment of healthcare more easily provisioned remotely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there it is right there, right? All the flexibility and what technology has enabled these healthcare organizations to be able to, attract that talent and say, "Hey, we have these options that gives you that flexibility, that opportunity to do your work, but now not just in, traditional, uh, methods or way of doing it." That's great.
I mean, we went virtual everywhere
Yeah.
during the
We had no
pandemic.
choice.
How many Zoom calls or Teams calls have you joined? We talked about telehealth in healthcare, but that's happened. That's happened everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's makes things faster. It's more convenient for the person or patient, as the case may be. So there's just really a lot of benefits that this shift to virtual have unlocked, and I'm curious to see, sort of as the hopefully the pandemic becomes less serious over time, how much of this persists going forward. Does it grow? Does it come back a bit from where it has been? I personally think it's kind of the new normal, and will here across the board, it's here to stay, and will grow from where we are today.
Yep, 100%. I think to your point, I really love how when we were put in that situation, how technology was accelerated, right? We were put in the situation, we have to all hands on deck. We have to make this possible. But let's continue that, right? Now that things are starting to look a little bit brighter for us, let's keep that momentum going and make things easier, efficient, everything that technology brings to our lives. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we've talked a lot, around the healthcare side. We also talked about attracting talent and how to, what does careers look like in healthcare. But as we know, the quality of care requires quality of modern technology. But unfortunately, there are some healthcare organizations that have not, had the resources or able to afford those technology refreshes. What happens then to those types of organizations?
Yeah, well, I'm very proud that Intel was able to work with Insight on a modern workplace makeover contest, where contestants could sort of um, submit some information about their situation, what their needs are, and a number of winners were selected. Not exclusive to healthcare, but there were a couple of healthcare winners. One was on the productivity side, the River Valley Counseling Center. They had really old, aging IT equipment. To take advantage of the innovations we talked about in this call, you need that um, foundation, that digital foundation. That you can deploy some of this innovative tech on top of. And so they, for example, estimated they were losing 25% of their productivity, just waiting for the systems to boot up, for the applications to load. So hopefully, as a winner of this contest, we can help jointly help them modernize that equipment and get the baseline benefits that come with having up-to-date IT gear. And then there was a second on the security side, a security winner, Lane Regional Medical Center. They were still, believe it or not, had Windows 7 deployed in a lot of places across their enterprise. So from a security and vulnerability perspective, not the best option. So being able to modernize their equipment, get them on latest devices and operating systems that are patched, regularly with security patches up to date, reduce their exposure to some of the modern vulnerabilities. So those are, and hopefully those can serve as examples for others to emulate, with some of the benefits you can get from the security and productivity perspective with just simply modernizing your equipment.
Wow, I just love that. Hopefully, this is a good call to action to others, right? To say, hey, well, how can we help and support other healthcare organizations, providers that are, a little bit behind and need some help? For me, it just feels good knowing that we were able to give them, something that can help, help provide better care and provide an environment for their employees to be able to do their job more efficiently. So amazing. I'm really proud of that. Okay, so wrapping it up, when it comes to IT, what what can you tell us about remote IT services in your space?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but this, being able to manage your fleet of devices, remotely, where you don't have the employee doesn't have to bring their laptop into the IT center, or the technician doesn't have to go to the patient room and work on the device. So we've worked with a number of organizations in healthcare. I touched on Intermountain earlier. The NHS, National Health System in the UK, is another health system we've worked in this area, where you can enable the IT staff to manage it. Even if it doesn't boot up, they can work on it remotely. This technology sits at the lowest level of the hardware, below the operating system, below the BIOS. They can swap operating systems, reboot, do all these things across a fleet of devices. So it really during the pandemic served sort of that dual purpose of minimizing unnecessary face-to-face contact and making the staff more efficient. And so hopefully it becomes another example of something that maybe was deployed for one reason, but sticks around due to the efficiency gains.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris. I mean, just to wrap up, I know we covered again a lot of elements today. We've provided some good information. Is there any other advice or anything else you can tell our audience that again, when they're thinking about how to provide a better experience in health in when it comes to the healthcare industry, when it comes to their patient care, their environment, any other advice that you have for them, or anything to take away or close out with?
I think just we talked a lot today about using data and technology to become less reactive, more proactive and predictive. I believe this also gives us a great opportunity to make sure we're targeting the human capital, the scarce human capital in healthcare, where it can have the greatest impact. And so Intel is excited to continue this mission as we engage with health and life sciences organizations and great partners like Insight to bring these solutions and capabilities to healthcare everywhere.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate your time. I know we gathered a lot of great insights and nuggets of wisdom from you today. Thank you again with your partnership and your partnership we have with Intel. If you want to learn more about this topic, please go visit our site at insight.com/ambitious health. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.